In this lecture, we'll see how we can add identity services in our application and allow user to create an account by registering themselves and using that account to log into the application. So for that, what we need to do is here in our configure services method, we'll have to make use of services.addIdentity. Now here we'll say services.addIdentity, and inside this we'll be passing two things. First is the user itself, so for that we have identity user, and next we have roles, and for that we have identity role. Next we have to add entity framework stores. Now this allows us to store the data of the user in a database, and for that we'll be creating another context just like we have created one over here, Skill Bakery DB context. We'll be creating one, let's call it for now as identity data context. Now for now the identity data context is not existing, so what we have to do now is let's go inside our model directory, and just like we have created Skill Bakery context, we'll be creating identity context, and for that we'll say add, and then we'll say new item. Let's add a class over here and name it identity data context. Click on add. Now here we'll be inheriting this one from identity DB context identity user, so we can include it using Microsoft ASP .NET Core Identity Entity Framework Core, and this one comes from Microsoft ASP .NET Core Identity. Next we'll open up our Skill Bakery context, and we'll be copying these two methods from here and we'll put it over here. Now obviously this is going to be the constructor, and this as well, and the context that we have will be mentioned over here, and this will be including using Microsoft Entity Core, and here we'll say database dot ensure created. Now if I take you to this identity DB context, you'll notice that it already provides implementations for user, role, as well as claims, and that's why we have included it over here for the identity data context. Now once we have our data context up and running, here in our startup.cs file we now have to add the context over here as well. So we'll just copy this line, and here we'll be saying identity data context, and the same connection will be utilized over here. And once we have this sorted, we now have to make use of app.useIdentity just above the app.useMVC. So we have included that as well. Now in the next lecture we'll see how we can make use of identity services to create user accounts.